Well, good evening, residents of the East Contra Costa Fire Protection District. My name is Brian Helmick. I'm the fire chief of the fire district, and we're here with you tonight doing a Facebook Live event, which is also being hosted on YouTube and Periscope simultaneously. And so we're going to make sure that all devices are running. We want to make sure that we're running well on all platforms. And what I'll do here tonight, once we get settled, and we know that folks are joining in, and it looks like things are posting well. I will set up kind of the groundwork of what we're going to be doing here tonight. I'll be doing a brief presentation, showing you a short little video, and most importantly, going to a question and answer session to answer any questions you may have about your fire district here in these unprecedented days. So we've been on for about a minute now. It looks like we are on Facebook Live, and we have a good amount of people watching. I ask those that are watching if you can share, as I'm doing right now myself, if you can share the event so we can get this information out to as many possible people as we can. My goal here tonight is to continue to educate and inform. Try to provide you an update on where the fire district is. Again, I'll be showing a short little video and going into a question and answer session. It's been a minute. We haven't been with you in this format or this forum since August of this year. And if you recall, we hit pause as the district was monitoring and watching many of the election cycles that came up and were decided on in November. And so I'm going to be bringing you up to speed on where the district was from August, the impacts from November on the fire district, and the things that we are doing now and that we're actively engaged in the effort to increase fire service levels within the East Contra Costa County area. So again, thank you for joining us tonight. And really, that's what the opportunity is here tonight, is to continue to educate and inform. And one of the videos I'm going to be showing you is one that we actually had developed. We were going to be showing it in the month of September, but the fire board had took a board action to support a measure called Measure X that ended up passing, which I'll be talking about here in a moment. And we wanted to distance ourselves from advocating on any measures because we did endorse it and the district did support it. And we went dark on the outreach and education. So today's the day we get to bring you up to speed. Well, we're going to be showing you a video to kick this off, and I'll come back and do another state of the district that is called A Day in the Life of an East Contra Costa Firefighter. As many of you know, and if you're watching, our firefighters continue to get run really hard. We currently have 3 fire stations. We have an existing 3-station deficit, and over the next 20 years, we know we need to add an additional 3 stations for a total of 9. And what our members do on a daily basis, our suppression personnel, to be able to adapt and overcome operationally, it's a stretch. And it's really hard to be able to articulate the amount of stress that's put on the members of the organization and the people and the urgency and need to be able to correct our service level deficits. So we're going to watch a short video. I have a lot of updates to give you, and I'll provide a Q&A. We plan on being here for about an hour. And so I really hope as we kick this off, again, share this video. If you have questions for me, let me know that you can put them into the questions. If you're on YouTube, on Periscope, and or on Facebook, you can put in your questions, and we'll process through all of them as we move forward. So thank you for being here tonight. Hope you enjoyed the video we put together on the day in the life of an East Contra Costa firefighter. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll be right back.
Working at East Contra Costa, it's very demanding due to our lack of resources. We're putting in long hours, we're up all night, we're going to multiple calls all day long.
The worst that we can go through sometimes is where you get up at 1 a.m., 3 a.m., and 5 a.m. It just breaks up the night to where you're a zombie by the time you leave.
Our area is supposed to have more fire stations to cover. We have a very large area, very few resources.
Only 1 fire station in Oakley, 1 fire station in Brentwood, 1 fire station in Discovery Bay. We're covering 249 square miles. It's a lot of distance to travel. Each of our stations is responding to so many more calls than what we did in the past.
I believe the station averages in the realm of 13 calls a day, which when you factor in a call on average, I would say it takes at least an hour. So 13 hours of your day is on a call, let alone what you're doing to prep.
The less resources we have, the more time we're having to spend at the fire scenes to be able to get those fires under control. And then we end up missing or not being able to respond in a timely manner to vehicle accidents or medicals or other fires.
We're putting in more work per se than an average department because they're getting 5 engines to a call, 6 engines to a call, and we're getting 2 to 3. We're doing the work of 15 to 18 guys with 9. We have to use different strategies and tactics to fight fire because we can't plan on guys being right there behind us. And in structure fires, time is your friend and your enemy. So physically it's taxing, mentally it's tough.
When you get on scene of a fire and you feel that there's not much you can do because you don't have enough resources and you see what the potential is, it's frustrating. And it gives you a sense of hopelessness, of feeling that something is going to get worse and it's going to damage people's homes and it's going to spread beyond because we just don't have enough help out there and it's not coming soon enough. Unfortunately, because we don't have the resources, we have to try to do the most good with the least amount.
More resources, more stations, more engines. That's the bottom line. We're making it work with what we have, barely, but we're still so far behind the curve. If we have more stations, more engines, more personnel, it's better for everybody.
It's fire season with only 9 firefighters on duty today across all East Contra Costa. Please stay safe and alert.
All right, well, thank you for watching that. And again, as the fire chief and as the fire district, it is one of our responsibilities to make sure that our communities continue to be educated and informed, all things in regards to fire. And that's what, again, we're doing here tonight. My goal is to make sure that you guys within the community, the businesses and the residents of our community are aware of what's going on with your fire district, what we're doing as staff, and what your elected board is working on a daily basis, trying to increase service levels. A lot of things discussions have changed. A lot of things have occurred over the past, what has it been, 3 or 4 months within the district. And so tonight, what I want to do is get everyone that's on here tonight, up to speed on what we're doing. We'll have it about another 40 minutes, 45 minutes. We'll do a question answer, as I stated a little bit earlier. It's also important to note this video is being recorded and it will be housed on the district's website and also on our YouTube page. So you can go back and archive it, you can go back and record it, and you can look at it. There's also future opportunities. I'll be doing this again on Wednesday night to continue to advance the conversation. We know the scheduling doesn't work for anybody and everybody, so we want to make sure that you have that opportunity. For some reason, if you don't ask your question tonight, you can ask it on Wednesday, or you can always contact the district's office to be able to ask any questions if you have any. And so again, please share this as we continue to work through the questions that you may have. And tonight, what I want to do is kind of give you an update on where we've been since August of this year. So moving into November. November was a very big month for the district. We had many things, starting with the board. The fire board, we had 2 members that were running for re-election. We had other citizens running for those positions too. An update is the incumbents, Director Smith and Young, they're the ones who got elected into the positions. Just this last board meeting that we had, we swore them back into the positions that they're in to continue serving those capacities. On behalf of myself and the board, and it was echoed at our board meeting, we appreciate those that threw their hat in the ring. And we appreciate all those that continue to advocate and also support what the fire district does, as we need all the support and help that we can get. And I really appreciate people being actively engaged on what we do and willing to throw their hat in the ring for election. So we really, really do appreciate that. To set the table, it's very important for us to remember, because our problem statement that we have as a fire district was the same in August as it is today, is that we have 3 stations, we have an existing 3-station deficit, and we have a growth challenge. So we have existing service level deficits and growth challenges. And everything we were watching for in November really helped guide the next steps of the fire board and staff accordingly to be able to correct those 2 issues. In November, as we stated, we were watching Measure X. Measure X was a half-cent county sales tax that was going to go to, if it were to pass, it was going to go to addressing not only public health, mental health, hospitals, and fire services in Contra Costa County. I'm very happy to report that Measure X passed. And right now, the supervisors, the Contra Costa County Board of Supervisors, are working on identifying the way that the revenues that are going to come from Measure X are going to be used. It's going to take some time, be able to work through. I think it's important that we manage the expectations and understandings of how the monies are going to be divided, how they're going to be distributed, and how they're going to be used. But your fire district is actively engaged in that conversation, and we're watching. That revenue can go to addressing service level revenues within the fire district. I'm going to talk to you about a couple ways of which that can be done as we move forward. We're also watching a couple propositions up at the state. And Prop 19 passed at the state. If you all recall, when you voted in November, that was one that went towards addressing property tax transfers. And we are also working actively with the Assembly, trying to identify, because it passed, what it means for the fire district, but also with those revenues we know. It's going to take some time to figure out how that's done. But we very much appreciate the Assembly members that made that a possibility. And Assemblymember Grazer was very, very vocal in regards to the needs of the fire district, and he pointed to it. So we appreciate the time and energies that went into not only Prop 19, but also the support from Local 1230 and our Supervisor Diane Burgess, as it goes into addressing our service level challenges in Measure X. All of this collaboration is a huge victory for the fire district. And both of those, Prop 19 and also Measure X, can go to help fund regional fire protection to be able to address our issues. So we're actively engaged watching what happens there. So in November, that's probably the biggest updates, is that Prop 19 and Measure X passed. But there was also another change that occurred, or new recommendations that were brought in front of the district to consider, that we've also been seeking for feasibility. Those that were actively engaged with the fire district knew that we were looking at the feasibility of working with the city of Brentwood, the city of Oakley, and the county to see if they had funds that could go to sustainably go to upstaffing the fire district. Secondarily is we have been working on looking at the feasibility of consolidation. And so those conversations on consolidation, Measure X, and the ad hocs working with the cities, those are all actively continuing, and they're continuing to grow some legs, which is a very positive thing for all of us within East Contra Costa Fire Protection District's area. What I would strongly recommend to everyone that's watching, and I'm going to reinforce this as I go through, is there is some big discussions coming up with the district. Right now, the biggest conversation we're having is in regards to consolidation with Contra Costa County Fire. Those of you that have been watching our board meetings and have been relying upon these Facebook Live events, or relying upon the State of the District events that we have done in the past, would not know or be aware of a lot of the board discussions, workshops, and actions around consolidation that we've had over the past month. These conversations are going to continue in the months to come, but I want to explain what this feasibility study looks like. Now, the challenge in all of this, I think, is like everything else, not only with Measure X funds, with it is Proposition 19, the concept of consolidation, these things do take some time. It's not only getting board authority and approvals to move forward with processes, but there's also what is called a LAFCO, the land use agency that makes decisions on if organizations can consolidate or join, and or if someone to be annexed or moved in other organizations. Those conversations take some time. What I'm happy to report is that the fire board has been working and directing staff to go through what was called the phase 1 of the consolidation feasibility study. We spent 2 months, almost 3 months, working through in collaboration with Contra Costa County Fire, looking at the existing revenues of the East Contra Costa Fire Protection District to see if there was economy, if there was things of which Contra Costa County Fire can do utilizing our revenues to provide an increased level of service, or potential increased level of service, with their existing revenues. The importance of the phase 1 study of the consolidation was that if it showed that there was value going into what we call the phase 2 of the consolidation study, which is a deeper dive. It's a deeper dive into consolidation feasibility and study, and then you start collaborating, working with LAFCO in regards to preparing an application for potential consolidation. Now, I'm happy to report that we have been working very hard to continue to kick over these rocks of feasibility, and we got through the phase 1 study. Those of you that didn't watch, what the phase 1 study showed is that with our existing revenues, Contra Costa County Fire potentially, and phase 2 study, which is a deeper dive, will reinforce everything I'm about to say. It showed that there is the possibility for Contra Costa County Fire to provide up to 5 stations. The 5th station is not sustainable with our existing funds, but they can get us up to 5 stations over 2 years. And so that is, the fire board found that encouraging, that there's the opportunity where consolidation, we've had consolidation conversations many a times in years past, and it was a non-discussion starter, or it wasn't feasible, the district was a liability. But what I'll tell you is not only the work of the fire board, the work of our staff, the work of our representatives that have been working around us, we have been able to advance the fire district in many ways, and where we were 3 years ago, we are not today. And we have opportunities that currently didn't exist that we potentially do now. And so the phase 1 study showed that there is the possibility, and again, the phase 2 study started now. We took board action and moved from phase 1 to phase 2 on Wednesday. And we'll continue conversations in the board meetings to come. Now, here's the thing. The fire district continues, or at least I continue to get challenged with lack of urgency. We have existing service deficit of 3 stations. We have a growth issue. What are you doing to address them? And working through these processes to get sustainable solutions to our issues, it takes time. So the fire district continues to have feasibility conversations with the cities and the counties about sustainable revenue to get up to potentially 4 stations, and those conversations will continue to occur in the near term. The feasibility study for phase 2 started on Thursday morning, and it is going to be worked all the way until we anticipate June. June of 2021 is when we believe that the phase 2 study approximately should be complete. Now, I can speak for myself and for the fire chief of Contra Costa County Fire. We are working to be a catalyst to be able to provide information to where both boards can make a decision if this is something that both districts want to get into in regards to going in front of LAFCO, to go through the LAFCO process to dissolve East Contra Costa Fire and make both agencies one. I think that it is in all of our best interest to try to get that a decision point as soon as possible, as service level increases need to happen now. But every meeting that we have, we'll be providing updates. And so we encourage people to not only be engaged, if that's something they support, speak to it, and understand that it's going to take some time for us to get through, but we're really trying to increase service levels along the way. And so that is kind of the nutshell on consolidation. Phase 1 study is done. It shows that there's economy. Most businesses, the larger that you get to add on services, it becomes cheaper with more stations that you have. For us, we have 3 stations, so our station costs are greater than. You will find adding an additional station onto an organization that has 20 plus stations within the organization. There's economy to scale, which is potentially very encouraging for us. So also in the interim, as we continue to look at feasibility, since Measure X passed and the reality of consolidation is being discussed, the fire board a meeting ago directed staff to look at the plausibility for us to be able to upstaff in the interim. What is it going to take on our own measures to try to get us to a 4th engine company as a bridge to be able to be funded through consolidation and or Measure X, or a combination of both? And so staff right now, if you attended our finance meeting today, I made a presentation to finance. We had a discussion at our last board meeting about how can we use one-time monies to staff a squad, which is a 2-person company, as a bridge to get us to a full engine company as soon as we possibly can, and make it sustainable through consolidation and or through the Measure X process, or a combination thereof. And so there are a lot of conversations happening right now, because we know that we need 3 engine companies yesterday. And our members continue to get impacted on a regular basis, on a daily basis. And it is staff and the board's desire to be able to provide support as we look at feasibility and work towards transitioning to be a sustainable organization. And so we still are very eager to correct things. But as of right now, the fire board, we do have those studies in place to do a potential tax measure. But the realities and the possibilities of consolidation happening has put those to conversations and staging. We're on a shelf for now. They're updated, they're ready to go and relevant. But we have always been demonstrating for the past 3 years since I've had the privilege to be the fire chief that we will, number one, live within our means. Number two, we will explore all opportunities to be able to increase revenue to the district, to be sustainable, to provide service level increases to our citizens, and provide the best level of service also for the members within the organization. And our job's not done yet. The fire board and I continue, and our staff continue to look at the possibility of increasing service levels with existing revenues. And it looks like we're on our path to be able to do so. So that's really where I want to hit pause and really provide an update, because here's the thing I want you to take away is there's a lot of information on the district's website. I strongly recommend people continue to watch our board meetings. We'll continue to come out on a frequent basis and do these updates so it is accessible to you. You can get information from the source. We're still challenged with a lot of misinformation coming out in regards to the fire district and or people not having the whole information. And things are very dynamic and moving at a regular and a rapid rate. But I do want to really stress the fact the fire board, myself, my staff, the labor representatives, we have a huge sense of urgency to increase service levels, to provide a higher level of service that is really required. And not only required, but it is something that the community deserves and that our members that provide those services need to be adequate at what they do. And so we have some new things on the table. We're trying to be as aggressive as we can to continue to work through these challenges, but we also want those within our community to understand we are not sitting idle. Not even in the midst of things that look favorable, like potential consolidation. We're looking at what are the interim steps we can take to be a catalyst to increase service levels along the way. And if consolidation is going to occur, how can we get to that conclusion as fast, as rapidly as possible? And if for any reason things weren't able to materialize, what is our plan B and our plan C to exercise to get us to where we need to go? And so tonight, again, is just an opportunity for us to let you know where we are. I also will report out is I'm really talking about our existing service level challenges, because that's very near and dear to all of us. Our members feel it every day. The citizens that rely on our system can see it and they can feel it. But I also want to update you on how we're addressing our growth challenge. The district right now is addressing growth is we've been working to put the fees and assessments and mechanisms in place to ensure that future development pays for the impacts and the needed services they'll need for coming to our communities. The fire board has been working with our land use agencies, and so has staff, Brentwood County, Brentwood, the county, and Oakley, to implement two mechanisms. Community facility districts which pay for ongoing operations of stations and assessments on future properties, and impact fees that pay for future fire stations and apparatus that are paid by the developers that are building in new construction. We're making some really good strides. We continue to move forward. We're waiting to have a public hearing on our CFDs, and we were going forward with it. We attempted to have that meeting in December. We opened a public hearing and we continued it, and we plan on readdressing that at the April of 21 board meeting. And we're hoping at April of 21 board meeting, the community facility district will be adopted, which means all future development can be annexed or brought into that community facility district. And so that station 7, 8, and 9, those last 3 stations over 20 years that we will need, operationally will be fully funded. And it will be paid for by the new future residents, and why we need those increased services. We have worked with the city of Brentwood and also the county, and we have the adopted impact fees in both of those cities today. And we are working with the city of Oakley, and I'm happy to report that those of you that may have seen and or heard that the district was having some administrative challenges with the city of Oakley, we have worked with them, and we have gone leaps and bounds to be able to work closer together, collaborate with each other. The fire district having a seat at the table, and it looks as if that our fees will be going back in front of their council for potential consideration in early 2021. And I do want to thank not only the city staff of Oakley, but the elected officials in Oakley for working with us as we're working to address our historical challenges. But I'm really impressed by the amount of work over the past 30 to 45 days that has been done to address many historic challenges. And we're moving forward in a really good way. So I thank Oakley for being operationally flexible with us and working with us. And I hope in the very near future we'll be able to report out that our fees are updated and that we have, again, the first quarter of next year, that we've addressed the growth challenge once and forever. But then it goes back to how do we address our existing service levels? And right now it's looking like consolidation is the path that we need to explore. And how is it made sustainable to get us to 6 stations? And what other means it can support us to do that? And there's really, that is the conversation that we need to work through prior to considering any other alternatives. So we'll be able to justify decisions by reports and putting things out there. But again, we've been absent for a couple months, but it isn't from lack of work. We're working every day to increase services to you. So that's really where we are. I do strongly recommend that you stay actively engaged and watch our meetings, reach out to myself and my staff. We can provide questions for you. But what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to see if we have any questions that I can seek to answer. And we'll run this process until we exhaust any questions that are out there. And if we don't see questions, then we'll pause. And again, we'll be back on Wednesday night. So let's start and see if we have any questions out there, and we'll get right at it. So it says, did I read that several firefighters are COVID positive? So we, like everyone else, are as susceptible as anybody when it comes down to the realities of COVID-19. What I'll tell you is the answer is yes. We have had some members of the organization that have come positive. I'm happy to report that everyone's symptoms are minor and mild. With that being said, is that we continue every single day to reinforce our internal processes to ensure that our members are safe and that you are safe in the manner of which and how we respond out. Our members right now have to pick up the toll. We're not a large organization. We have 27 line firefighters. We have 30, but we have people out on workers' comp and people out on injury. So when we have vacancies, it requires people to pick up extra shifts to be able to pick up those shifts. So right now, we're able to maintain the 3 stations. There have been period of times where people have had to be relieved of duty, to quarantine, to be safe, provide the safest environment, where we have had temporarily have had the down staff and engine for a period of time to get people in. But today, we are fully staffed, and I commend our members for working extra hard to be able to do that. And that's one of the downfalls of being a small organization. You don't have the deep pool of resources to lean into. And so we're continuing to work through that. But right now, we're operationally sound. We're reinforcing our processes. And I think it's important to note that your fire district isn't working in a silo. We work with the CDC, county health, the county medical director, our allied partners, our agency partners, and we look at their best practices and what they do and what can we do for our members and how do we respond. And I am as challenged to communicate this externally as we are internally. But I'll tell you that we are the forefront of making sure that we're safe for everybody and that we respond. So the exposures we have do not place the community at any additional risk. And again, with our members, we're trying to continue to reinforce and show through our administrative processes they can have confidence in the way we're making decisions, and we strive to improve on that every day. So we're holding the line. Our members are adapting and overcoming, and it's them who we should commend that we're getting through this COVID process. Next question, please. As both the fire chief and as a resident, what is your stance on consolidation with Con Fire? The phase 1 feasibility showed stating that consolidation is physically attainable, even with Measure X money of 6 to 8 million estimated is not a factor. You keep using the word possibility. It seems more than a possibility. Why as a tempered response attitude? Very fair question. So the reason I use possibility is because I'm not the SARE. I'm not the one that has the legitimate authority to be able to say if we go or do not go. Respectfully, that is a decision of the Contra Costa County Fire Board. That is the decision of the East Contra Costa Fire Board. The elected officials are the ones that can say they want to go or they don't want to go. It's not only financial, there's also political. There's some hurdles and things that need to be done and gone through. And there's another entity, LAFCO. LAFCO, there's an application process. It goes to LAFCO, and they make the ultimate decision if we go or don't go. And so I don't want to misconstrue, again, that, and if you were to watch the last meeting, is that we looked at the feasibility of phase one, and it shows that 4 stations is sustainable, and 5 stations, it needs additional revenue. Phase two will identify how that revenue would be defined. And so what's hard about these processes, again, is managing expectations and understand the communication processes and people's legitimate authority to make decisions. Staff did recommend to not only fund and go into phase 2 of the consolidation process because it does show economy. But it's important that we have a study that is able to show that it is sustainable. If there's any deficits, how are they addressed? And that both boards understand the gravity and the magnitude of the decision that needs to be made, and that they direct staff to move through the LAFCO process and move forward. So staff has made that recommendation. We go into phase 2. But the reason I use possibility is because I do not have the authority, nor do I have the ability to say that is where the board is going to go. So I hope that is it makes sense. And but if there's another question on it, I'm more to expand upon it. Next question, please. When will new firefighters get hired? So today at our finance meeting, so we started this conversation. What is the pathway to get the 4 engine companies? There's a lot of complexities to be able to upstaff, to be able to hire, to be able to get apparatus, to be able to put them in stations. That process takes time. And so what I started to do on the December board meeting, which was on the 9th, is I started the conversation of the problem statement of hiring. Hiring to open another station requires promotions, internal promotions of 3 firefighters and 3 captains. And we'd have to hire 3 firefighters to come in. So we have internal personnel that need to promote, and we have people we need to bring in from the outside, and we have to train them, equip them, and get them into a station, and all of that takes time. Today at the finance meeting, I presented them a draft presentation that talked through all of those complexities from not only hiring, promoting, timelines, to be able to get a 4th engine company onto the road. But there are some very real challenges when it comes down to making mid to short, or even long-term strategic decisions, funding them and executing them when you have consolidation in the window. So how do we, as we're working to finalize, memorialize, and get board direction on decisions of what's going to be done, how do you continue to make those decisions as you move forward? So we are going to be working towards making a recommendation at the January board meeting to not only start a potential hiring process and reassess what it looks like for applications. The board's got to approve that. And also looking at what can we do within our existing means that doesn't require upstaffing, or hiring, to be able to build a bridge to do increased service level enhancements on the way as we work towards get a 4th engine company. So again, we will be seeking that direction in the January board meeting. If the board authorizes a squad concept, that's something that we do with our internal resources that does not require any additional hiring. But the other item to consider is, do we move forward or not on hiring, or do we wait to see how consolidation plays out? And what is the timeframes to get an engine company staff through those initiatives? And so right now we're in a tough spot trying to figure that out, but we will come to a conclusion on it in January. And that is what we're continuing to work through now. So it's a very fair question. Stay tuned, watch our January board meeting, and we'll be able to report out at that point. Next question, please. Why are we talking about a squad again? It's deemed at the previous meeting that it was a bridge to nowhere and preferable. It seems like a waste of money. I understand the perspective. I respectfully disagree. It's only a bridge to nowhere if there's not sustainable revenue to be able to convert it to an engine company at the end of the road. So the squad is a bridge to a 3-person engine company. When you do not have the resources to be able to get to a full engine company, it's a good interim step. The reason the fire district hasn't entertained the squad concept is because the bridge to nowhere a squad itself isn't going to be the long-term answer. We need engine companies. We need 3 engine companies. But if there's sustainable revenue and a means to get us to a company, which consolidation on its own, measure X on its own, or a combination thereof, can get us to a 3-person engine company. A squad is a bridge to that. So the question is, do you wait to do a 4th engine company, which can take anywhere from 8 to 16 months, and or do you do an interim step of trying to get a squad on the street to provide not only additional support internally for division of labor on the per days for putting another resource on the street, and or do you wait to be able to get the full engine company once those means become available? And so going back to the point of wanting to demonstrate and also provide the highest level of fire protection, that is why we're having those conversations at the finance and the board level for consideration. If the board does not choose to fund that initiative, then that initiative would not occur. But staff is working to make that recommendation that we should try to utilize to the best of our ability with the revenues we have, the highest level of service that we can. So again, a squad is only a bridge to nowhere. If the engine company, a 3-person engine company, if there's not a path to it and it's not sustainable, there's clearly a path now where there was not prior to November, a clear path to sustainable revenue and getting us to an engine company. And so for that reason, and only that reason, staff's recommending that we consider a squad. Fair question. Next question, please. So the question is, can you explain 2 in and 2 out and the process and why a fire engine may have to wait for others? So 2 in and 2 out is an OSHA law that was actually created in cooperation with International Association of Firefighters called IAFF and OSHA to create a safer working environment for firefighters. As many know, there's over 100 operational deaths per year due to fires, and the OSHA 2 in and 2 out law that went in late 90s, mid 90s was intended to create a safer work environment for firefighters and not overextending ourselves without the resources we need to be able to aggressively fight structural, residential, or industrial firefighters. What 2 in and 2 out clearly states is that we cannot go into an environment that's called IDLH. It's immediate dangerous to life and health environment. So a smoky environment in which we can't breathe or survive in without having 2 members outside. And so we cannot enter and go into a building until we have 2 people on the outside, put 2 people inside into the immediate dangerous life and health environment, IDLH. There is one exception and one rule where you can override it, is that if there's a known rescue. If there's a known rescue, you can temporarily go in without 2 out, but when the next engine companies or people arrive, you need to have another 2 people outside. And so the value of 2 in and 2 out and why 2 in and 2 out is very important is that's why we need additional resources. Because one engine company on its own can't effectively go in to a structure that is an IDLH or a dangerous environment without having the second engine company at scene or a chief officer or somebody to be able to support those operations. And so that is why time and distance is a killer for us, because we can't effectively meet 2 in and 2 out. If there's a rescue, we can go, but it puts our members at greater risk. And that is also why, if you recall, back in July, I had to suspend all public education events, and we had to go from a defensive and outside, an exterior to interior, very slow and methodical approach because of the lack of resources we have. And until we can get to 4, 5, 6 stations is when we can change our operational practices, but it's a resource issue. And only sending 3 engines to a residential structure and the time and distance and having to be able to apply and honor the 2 in, 2 out law, it really puts us being under-resourced and having time and distance. It really, really negatively impacts us when it comes down to service levels. Hope to answer your question. Next question, please. So you do not have the final authority. However, as the fire chief, you have a pivotal role. Are you for or against consolidation? If you are against, please say why you're in that stance. And if you are for, what are the benefits of consolidating? Yeah, so my positioning on this, I think, has been clear from go. And to repeat myself to some degree, is I had the privilege and opportunity of taking the position as fire chief in April of 2017. And throughout that process in April of 2017, I signed up for this position for one very clear issue. It was to participate and be part of and lead to some extent and be part of the team to correct what many people said was not corrected, and many things not only say couldn't be corrected, but the district couldn't be sustainable. We couldn't get where we need to be. It was an impossible task. I've never subscribed to that. I've never seen that, and I've never believed in it. So to be clear, when I got into the fire district, I came in here to work amongst a team with the fire board, with my staff, with labor, our citizens, our agency partners, to correct our service level challenges. Now, I want to be clear. I've never been married to the recipe. I've been never married to how it gets done. What I'm married to is getting it done. And so my thing is this. Phase one shows that it's promising that it can produce merit. If we can get sustainable revenue to get us to the 5 to 6 stations, and we already are putting the means in place to get us to 9 down the road, and it increases service levels with no additional tax measures, that is why, as long as it continues to produce those results, I will continue to recommend to the board to move forward. And when we went into the phase one, my positioning always was that, it was hard. Going into the phase one study was very hard. And I always try to be very transparent and authentic with all of you. Was historically, right? We're talking many discussions went before, like what's changed, what would happen, why didn't it happen? And I was challenged with it. And as the last couple weeks to months have gone by, the phase one process demonstrated and showed that there is economy. That Confire with our existing revenues can provide elevated level services. And that is why I made the recommendation to move forward into the phase two consolidation process. And so again, if we can get to the 5 to 6 stations to address our existing service level deficits through consolidation with Measure X funds, staff will continue to recommend this is the path to go down. However, as we stated before, but if it keeps us at existing service levels, which phase one showed it didn't, and phase two will continue to reinforce, then that's the direction that the fire district rightfully should continue to pursue. So if you're hearing anything from me, and if it's anything's coming across, I do again ask that you again think about my legitimate authority. Is my job is to make recommendations to the board and say what's feasible and what's not feasible and what we do. And there's a very high possibility this isn't continue moving forward. But for me to say that it's done is inappropriate. For me to say that this is an absolute. The studies, the facts, and need to be presented to the board, and they need to make the decision. And so, to be clear, going back to answer your question too, the possibility of consolidation and why it's beneficial is that, listen, operationally, we run every day with Contra Costa County Fire and Battalion 8, having uniformity and consistency. There's something to be said about that. Obviously, the economy of scale. If they can produce higher level services with our existing revenues because they're adding on stations, they don't have the early on station. If there's economy there, if there's a cost savings there, if there's a manner of which increasing service levels with existing revenues and measures they already have in place that do not require us putting another measure in place, that's the right thing to do. And so there's value there if there's economy there. But right now is conceptually, the phase one study said, but respectfully myself and the fire chief, the adjoining agencies, we don't want to get ahead of the process. We need to manage the expectations in it. And so I hope that I'm being clear, and I hope that it doesn't look like I'm being wish-washy. What I'm doing very clearly is, listen, the content, I said that wrong. The process is equally as important as the content. Let me say that again. The process is equally as important as the content. I'm managing the process, as producing the content, I'm providing the recommendations as fast as we possibly can. And that is why I'm using the word possibly, because the county has they have the ability to say yay or nay. Our board had yay or nay, LAFCO yay or nay, and for me to speak in absolutes is inappropriate. What I'm saying is right now, staff's recommending that we move forward because it does show economy. It does show service level increases, but we need the phase two study and the approval of the boards to move forward. And that's what we're going to be seeing in the weeks and months to come. Hope that's clear. Next question, please. The squad could help with 2 in and 2 out. They're fully active firefighters. That is not the primary mission. The squad is a medical-based squad. Their primary mission is to be able to handle some medical aids on the front end, so we can keep our engine companies available for all risk type incidents. Again, a squad is a medical-based unit, but we have our firefighters on it, and so if they were to arrive at scene, they could help with the 2 out component. And also, to be very clear, we are looking at our policies and procedures, meeting and conferring, having these discussions. The board, again, has to take action if this is a concept that they want to fund or not. We'll be having those conversations at the board meeting. But yes, when and if they're at scene, they're a non-transporting unit, so they don't take people to the hospital. They provide the immediate care, and they help prepare the patient to be transported. But yes, there are members, and they definitely help with the problem statement in regards to 2 in, 2 out. Next question, please. Thank you for all the progress. What is the latest on the capital improvement projects and investments? So as folks know that are engaged in our finances and our board level processes, we have many capital projects that we're looking into and processes. Our capital usually is when we're talking about capital, it's talking about our stations and our equipment. We have a 3-station deficit, as we know, and we need to construct stations. We're still in conversations with the city of Brentwood for the construction of what we're calling Station 51 and the potential admin station. The reason I'm saying potential is if consolidation were to go through, is it needed, is it not needed? We're working through making those decisions in this time. And so that conversation moves forward because with or without consolidation, we know that we are going to need Station 51. We have Station 55. We're using it as an admin building right now for prevention and admin staff, but there's work to be done on that. We still have Station 54 downtown Brentwood, which would be the 3rd station that would be staffed if revenues became available. We currently have a $12 million gap, a 10 to 15 million. I'm going to call it 12 for discussion purposes. Capital gap that we have to be able to address. And we also look at our capital equipment replacement in regards to apparatus. As many of you may see, we got 3 pieces of equipment that are well overdue for our members. It's serving not only them, but the community well. They're front line, the top of the line pieces of equipment to be able to sort of platform, to be able to provide better level services to our communities. So we're excited. We finally got those online earlier this year, but we're also working to spec out to get the specifications. The next engine that comes online in our operational strategic plan is for a truck company. For those of you that may not know, our engines are what you see running down the street, but a truck has a ladder on the top. It can have anywhere from 75 to 100+ foot ladder that gets us to 3 stories or above to be able to do what we call truck work. The district does not have that piece of specialized equipment. We've had to rely upon outside agencies. But for the past 3 years, we always knew that Station 4 was going to be a truck company with that specialized unit. We're working on specifications and potential hiring. It takes about a year and a half to be able to make concepts of engines reality. That's why it's important we do it. But the answer to your question is, listen, just because we have a lot of things that are in flux and transition, we continue to take care of our equipment and we continue to take care of our stations. But these mid to long-term decisions are where we're challenged with right now. Where do we invest? But we are moving forward on Station 51, the construction, and identifying pathways for Station 54, because even if revenue from consolidation becomes available, we know we're going to need to have 2 stations staffed over 2 years, and we may or may not use squad concepts to be a stepping stone. That's what we try to bring personnel into the station. I hope that answers the question on capital. How old do you have to be to join East Contra Costa Fire Protection District? I love the question. I love it. Those that are aspiring to become firefighters, that's true to my heart. I started off as a reserve firefighter with Moraga, and then transitioned to a volunteer paid on call with the Oakley Knights prior to consolidation in 2002. And I also had the privilege of teaching at Freedom High School for 8 years in RP Fire Science, and I'm a life learner. So the fact you asked the question, I really appreciate that. So you need to be 18 years of age. And we have a couple of programs. We're currently not hiring for our fire aides, but we have fire aides that support our prevention division. They help with the logistics and the operational support for the fire district. The fire aides are a great stepping stone to get an inside look at the fire station, get your name known a little bit. We get to see your work ethic, how you work around others, how you work amongst a team, and you can do that concurrently while you're going to school and get things done. So from the fire aides perspective, that's 18, and also for our firefighters, 18 years of age, high school diploma, your California driver's license, and your firefighter 1 certification and EMT, emergency medical technician certification are the minimum qualifications. We're talking about the need only be an EMT or EMT, paramedic in the next cycle. Those are things are all in the air, but those are minimum qualifications. So the age is 18, but there's many other things that you may need to meet the minimum qualifications. If you have any questions about that, you can also go to your school counselor or any community college that has an active fire academy and talk to a career counselor. And they'll be able to provide you the framework and understanding of what it takes to become a firefighter. But operationally, as a firefighter, it's 18, and same thing with the fire aides. Great question. I love that. Next question, please. Can you explain what a squad is and the benefit it would be? So a squad, as I was saying a little bit earlier, a squad is a 2-person unit. Our engine companies are 3-person units. The intent and the mission of the squad primarily is to be medical based. So we know 66% of our calls are medical aid. When we arrive at scene, they may be a little bit more than what we expected. The reason we don't primarily focus on squads is because we're short engine companies. And if we had 6 engines, the squad would be considered as an enhancement at the station that has a truck per se. So a squad is 2. Our engine companies have 3. Our engine companies have a variety of tools, as you can see on the fire engine. As I stated before, the fire engine is our platform for providing our services. When we arrive at scene, if it's anything from a water rescue, confined space, trench rescue, if it's a fire, if it needs a vehicle extrication, we have the means to start to be able to set up and prepare to be able, we may need more resources, we may need specialized resources, but our engine companies are all risk. They have fans, they have tools, it's a garage, it's a moving garage for us to be able to work on. A squad doesn't have that. A squad has medical equipment. It has some minimal firefighting extinguishing equipment, but it's meant for the resources self-protection and maybe a small roadside fire, but they just don't have the capability of fighting. And we don't recommend, nor do we support having engine companies based with anything less than 3 for the safety of our members and the effectiveness of our members. So a squad is a 2-person unit that is not meant for firefighting capabilities. They do carry their firefighting gear. And their goal would be primarily to run medical aids. And why is that a good interim step? Well, again, we need engine companies because all risk, but the interim step is it helps divide the labor. It helps provide when the calls come in, it's an interim step until we can get that 3rd engine company online as a bridge to be able to divide the labor amongst our members. And to provide that medical aid support to the calls to keep the engine companies available for when those other all risk or fire, rescue, or hazard type calls come in. It increases the probability of having an engine company available for that all risk type call. So squads are not the answer. Squads are not where we need to be. We need 6 engine companies, and we're working towards that. But the reason staff's even considering the interim step is because, number one, we have the one-time monies to consider it. We have the pathway to increase service levels beyond the 2 to get it to an engine company. And it's something that can help divide the labor amongst our members on a day-to-day basis if we're able to staff the unit. Hope that's clear. And again, we'll continue to unfold this and explain this, hopefully as I am and better. At the January board meeting. Great question. Next question, please. So would you still be the chief? No, I would not, and that's okay. Let's be clear. Listen, my job is to run the organization that I have a privilege to do the best that I can. Contra Costa County Fire Protection District has a great fire chief. Chief Richard is one of my colleagues, and we lean on each other a lot. This discussion isn't about me. This discussion is about increasing service levels. It's about doing what needs to be done. The phase 1 study showed that if I went over, that I potentially be a deputy or assistant chief, as least it's defined by the study. But I very much want to be clear that we are trying to increase service levels. We're wanting to make sure we take care. In the phase 1 study, just to be clear of a couple things, all of the members in the organization, if we were to go through, our administrative staff, our prevention staff, our line personnel, our chief officers, represented management, unrepresented management, everybody would have a place. But it's an annexation. The East Contra Costa Fire Protection District would be dissolved, which means that we would be absorbed. It's like a marriage. We become one. But we would then no longer wear the East Contra Costa Fire patch. East Contra Costa Fire through consolidation would no longer exist. We would be Contra Costa County Fire. And so, again, it's about fixing decades-old problems that we have here and getting us there. And as I said previously, if you didn't miss it, look, we want to fix it. It's not about how. It's about doing it. And so, no, I would no longer be the fire chief. I would go through the annexation process like everyone else. I would get reassigned. And I would obviously continue to strive to provide the greatest and best impact I can, regardless of whatever position I have. So just know that I've never wanted to make this about me. But I have faith, strong faith, that I'll land on my feet wherever I go. So I appreciate the question. Next question, please. As consolidation talks move forward, have there been any changes in response matrix with ConFire? In other words, is ConFire supplementing with more within ECC FPD call responses? No, nothing's changed. And that's the thing, and that's the urgency. As these conversations have started and as the conversations continue, all joking aside, but the analogy I've been using and the one I'm using internally, and I'll share with you externally, it's been marriage, right? It's right now, we're looking at getting married, becoming one, no longer being two agencies, becoming one. LAFCO is the decision maker. That's the formal ceremony to make East Contra Costa Fire be absorbed into Contra Costa County Fire, and East Contra Costa Fire will go away. And going into that process may take us until July. We're dating right now. We're dating. We're talking. We're saying, hey, I think there's an opportunity for us to get married, but there's this long process that needs to be done. To be frank, what I'm working towards and what we're doing is I'm working to find a way that all parties can get together and have a discussion to be engaged. Do both boards agree that this is that we have the answers, we have the direction, we have the understanding? Look, there's long-term impacts from consolidation, and everybody wants to have an understanding of what it is that they're deciding to. Absorbed by Contra Costa Fire Protection District, East Contra Costa Fire's problems stay very real. But it doesn't change. It changes who now is going to be addressing them, the path of which they're going to be doing it. And everyone needs to be aware of what they're releasing and also absorbing. And so the reason I highlight that again is as we work through this conversation is we are the East Contra Costa Fire Protection District today. And when consolidation occurs, then the service level modifications or challenges can have. But to be clear, the operational boundaries of dropping or them sending over more resources and things getting done, I will tell you that the fire chief, myself, our board, are very much interested in finding a catalyst to work through this conversation in the best interest of the citizens and the members, but we're not there yet. So the automatic aid agreement, the call matrices, the way that we're doing business is what it is. I'm hoping that in the earlier part of 21, as we work towards the conclusion of the phase 2 study, which means need to get married, that there can be some interim decisions to be made. And how I approach that and how it's done, I'm working on it. I don't have the exact time frame in the process, but it's not independent of me. We're collaborating. I have multiple meetings a week with the chief at Contra Costa County Fire, and we're working, trying to work this conversation forward on both sides. But this conversation's only really been a topic for a month and a half, 2 months, and there's a lot of movement going on. So operational changes are not Right now, they're not even a part of the discussions to be able to change because we're still working through not only completing the phase 1, working on the phase 2. But stay tuned because I do anticipate that I would say in February, March, April, May, we're hoping that we can get to the engagement phase to move forward and see what we can do in the interim, working to that process. But there's still a lot of work to be done, a lot of conversations to be had, and we're working on it. So I hope that's clear. Next question, please. History lesson. What did the district look like when fully staffed? That's a good question, and it's somewhat subjective. So listen, the district historically has really not been fully staffed. Let's be clear. Now, the district at one time had more fire stations, but the fire stations only had 2 firefighters in the fire stations. When we transitioned from a volunteer to a 24/7, 365 operation to a career, we had 2 people at each station. Operationally, it wasn't effective. Operationally, it was not safe. And the first step that we took when we went from the 8 stations to 5 stations is we put 3 people on engine companies. And so we've never been, at 6 stations per se for existing service levels. We've never been at 3 stations with 3 people at each station. We were for a very short period of time. We got ourselves to 5, but we still had, when we were even at 5, some stations were still 2-person engine companies. The unincorporated areas, we still had some 2-person companies. We've never been fully staffed. Some may say that's subjective because we were volunteer. We were able to staff at another level, but respectfully, that is not 24/7, 365, 3-person engine company staffed. And so to answer your question is at one point, we were all volunteer. Another point, we had 2-person engine companies. We've never been fully staffed at 6 stations at 3-person companies. That's exactly what we're trying to correct. It's a fair question. Next question, please. Given we have the lowest paid professional firefighters in the Bay Area, and there are any efforts to improve compensation to attract and retain the members. So we've been trying really hard since when I came in 2017 to address the pay of our members. We had a tremendous retention issue when I came in. We had anywhere between 40 to 50% under. We were paid 40 to 50% of what other agencies were within Contra Costa County or the Bay Area. We have made many strides. We've improved pay by some 35%, give or take, by pay or grade or class in grade, to try to get us up to be more competitive with the agencies within Contra Costa County. Right now, we're between 50 to 30%, depending upon 15 to 30%, depending upon the organization and paying grade that we're at. So we're not at parity. We just went into a 3-year agreement on our contract and our negotiations. And we are striving to not only get the right amount of resources, but also to competitively pay our members. And that's another thing too, right? I mean, what is the pathway for the fire district to get to 5, 6 stations, 9 over 20 years? And also be competitive within the market to increase to paramedic services, which we currently do not offer. The consolidation to 5 stations provides a pathway to not only parity of our members, means everyone gets paid the same. That parity wouldn't occur overnight. It'd be between 1 to 7 years, depending upon your position and grade, but it would happen over time. And it would get us to paramedics on engines over 2 years. We're working on that same process, internally. And so that's why we're taking a hard look at the consolidation conversation. And so I believe that we have, in the interim, done a good job of taking strides to get closer to have parity. We're not there. We've demonstrated some effort over the last couple of years. And we're looking at trying to get there. I do commend and thank that our members, they continue to stay engaged. But right now, prior to the consolidation conversations, we were looking at a potential measure. Now we're putting that on hold and we're looking at Measure X and the consolidation discussion. I do believe that many of our members are standing idle and monitoring and watching the outcome of this conversation to look at the long-term sustainability to get the members up to be more competitively paid and what it is that we do. And that's fair. I think that's understandable. I think it's rational. And so that's why we're eager to continue to have these conversations to make sure that our members not only have the resources to be comparable to other agencies and also continue to get paid and provide services comparable to other agencies And that's why we're in the conversations that we do. So no active negotiations going on, but obviously many other conversations that could potentially impact attrition and or retention. Good question. Just want to say how excited a lot of us are that ECC has put so much energy into figuring out the best way to move us forward. So thank you, team effort. Again, elected board, myself, labor itself, elected officials throughout the county. This is very much clearly become a hot topic, no pun intended. And we have many irons in the fire that's going to get us where we need to go. And our future is more promising than I believe it ever has. And there's many people that should be commended for that. It doesn't sound like consolidation will solve our problem. I know we have worked very hard to fix our problems. Since you have taken the helm, I would be willing to vote for a tax increase. I feel the district has become fully transparent under your leadership. I just want to say I'm not a supporter of consolidation. Vicki, I hear you. This is a process that's going to continue over the next couple of months. And I just want to continue to demonstrate that we as the staff and as the board are trying to do not only the right thing, but the most economically sound thing that gets us to where we need to be in the most reasonable amount of time. And so, listen, your comments heard loud and clear. We do have regular board meetings. Again, there's obviously those on here that very much vocally support consolidation. There are those that may have their concerns. And I think the phase 2 study, right? Now, here's the thing, managing expectations on both sides, because there is 2 camps on this. The process is equally as important as the content. We have to go through this conversation. Vicki or Mr. Kellogg, I believe that's who's been raising, and just say either side. I'm confident the phase 2 study is going to very clearly define a clear path, right? It's going to identify the pros and the cons and the timeframes and the roadmaps to be able to make sound, educated, reasonable decisions. And that's where I've always been. I'm confident that the right thing to do is going to show itself. If you have concerns, the phase 2 process is either going to eliminate your concerns or magnify your concerns. I want to be factually based. I want to have sound decisions. And the phase 1 conclusion was clear. And that's why there was no apprehension in making a recommendation to move forward. I strongly believe the phase 2 is going to do that, regardless of your positioning or your opinion on any particular subject matter. Is the phase 2 study is going to provide a path that is the fastest, most reasonable, best economical thing to do for not only our members, but our citizens. So I do, however, don't want to dismiss, Vicki, that I don't take what you just said for granted. I don't. It has been a long time in the coming to where people trust East Contra Costa Fire and our behaviors and what we do and how we move forward. That's special, and I really, really appreciate that. We strive to be transparent. We strive to be accessible, and we strive to do the best that we can. So again, I'm not trying to position either way. What I'm saying is there's a process, and the process is going to help us make informed decisions, not only for our boards, but the community alike. And I just want to make sure that you're engaged in that and you can communicate. But I really appreciate you seeing the hard work by the whole district, elected and hired staff. So thank you. How much will Measure X help the district if consolidation with Confire does not happen? So the Measure X, let's put Measure X on its own. It's called pedestal or table. So Measure X is a county-wide sales tax. The Contra Costa County Board of Supervisors right now are trying to figure out the way that they take what was the 81 million that was anticipated of revenue and figuring out, again, it's public health, hospital services and fire services, fire and rescue services for the county regionally. If we can put ourselves not only in the supervisor's shoes, but also the decision makers, which is them, but figuring out how they approach this, it's complex, right? There's a lot of need. We have a tremendous amount of need for mental health from hospitals and fire protection. They are working right now, and my understanding is that they will be coming back early next year to set up that committee that will be making the recommendations for the board to approve on how the revenues will be divided and will be used. In regards to the timing, it is interesting to see what's going to happen in regards to the timing and this conversation that we have. Is it going to be had independently of what East Contra Costa Fire is doing, or is it solely going to be consolidation discussions? That again is for the supervisors to decide. With that being said, is that we are actively engaged. Again, we have representatives from Local 1230 that, for many reasons, from the International Association of Firefighters Local 1230, the reason fire was on there has heavily to do with them and magnifying the issues in East Contra Costa Fire. And so there's a lot of conversation happening. So to be clear, it's not the answer you want to hear, but today I don't know. What I'll tell you is that we continue to be actively engaged and listening and monitoring the conversation, and we do anticipate in the first quarter of next year that will be better defined. But the supervisors have to get that subcommittee together. The recommendations have to be forwarded to them. They have to execute that decision for it to be done. But I don't anticipate that revenues will be flowing from there, from what I'm hearing, until mid next year, some point early mid next year. But that time frame is suspect too, because that's only my interpretation right now. But that's going to be further defined in the first quarter of next year. So right now, specifically East Contra Costa Fire, I can't answer to that. And I also can't speak clearly to what if consolidation occurs. What I do know is that in the beginning of next year, all of that should be defined. So we'll continue to keep you updated and stay tuned. Good question. Okay, when I start getting posts like this, it looks like I've been able to at least address the questions. If you don't feel your question was answered, it's because it either was deemed to be in the category per se. I don't see them. They just get popped on the screen. But if you missed it, again, continue to come online. We are doing it again, and we are running long. It's an hour and 11 minutes. We try to keep this to an hour. We are going to be on again next Wednesday at 6. This is going to be archived. You can go to the district's website, and you can go in about the district. My cell phone number is on there. I don't say that facetiously, it really is. My email address is on there, my phone number is on there. And if for anything I said or anything that makes sense or you need some more clarity, I'm accessible to you. Again, if you're a citizen, if you're a resident, if you're a business owner within the East Contra Costa Fire Protection District, I'm your fire chief. And I'll continue to serve you in this capacity until the need isn't there. And I want to make sure you're informed, even if what you're hearing you don't like. I want you to have accurate information, relevant information, and I want you to know what it is we're doing. And also to conclude is, listen, we know we have a lot more work to do. We also know that our service levels are not adequate. And there is a huge degree of urgency to be able to move conversations forward to get us to a point to increase service levels, and it's hard. And so I do want to thank you, all that are here tonight, for being engaged. Please continue to share this, continue to lean on us. And I failed to mention it earlier, but happy holidays. Best time of the year. And hopefully we can appreciate and be thankful for everything that we have, because there's much, regardless of our circumstances, regardless of how we feel, there's so much to be thankful for on every given day. So I appreciate you being here. Continue to be safe, take the COVID precautions into place, and take care of each other, and continue to lean on us, as we're privileged and honored to be able to serve you. And I appreciate your time tonight. So we're going to be signing off. Be safe, and see you soon.